security systems and the one world monetary system, or maybe I should have said security companies. I took that first picture while in Oregon. That was the first time I seen anything like that was like that overt and obvious to people who know, at least. And it was definitely really interesting. While traveling and even living the street kid life, I've noticed that there's a lot of security companies that have been popping up all around the US. And most people don't really think much of it because they only really bother people who are homeless, usually. But they're known for attacking physically and verbally elderly people. They'll admit that they'll watch you get assaulted in every form possible and not do anything because, quote unquote, their job isn't to put their life at risk or to help anybody. It's just to stand there and watch, pretty much. They say they're not affiliated with the police, or at least Abbott and Allied does. But that's some bullcrap, and honestly, it's almost seeming like they're higher than the police because they're everywhere. Like, you can't even go to a library these days without having a security guard stare you down the whole time and threaten to kick you out if they think you're homeless, or if they think you're asleep because you're homeless, or if they just like feel any type of way about you, they'll kick you out of anywhere, really. Because like I said, they're everywhere. And a lot of people still don't get the issue because, as far as most people care, Abbott, Spy Inc. and Allied Universal are only there to keep the homeless people away, but that's not true. The tiny tech home prisons and even the regular apartments that they're building, they're going to have Abbott and Allied in them. So you're not even going to be able to like walk around your own house pretty much without Abbott and Allied being there to stalk you. It even makes me think about some of the things that I've heard about HOA. So, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, another thing I've noticed every single where I go. These new parking lot security camera things that are like on wheels, they're like drug out places on the back of a truck. And they're powered by solar panels, and they have a couple cameras on them and a speaker. Every time I walk by, it says, "This parking lot is being recorded for your safety." Stuff like that. And people don't think anything about that. And another thing, just like people have been saying for forever, but now it's even more overt. There's cameras everywhere, yet nobody can find the quote-unquote missing people because they're not even really missing. The police and others are involved in human trafficking. And another thing that I bring awareness to is that everybody's not being trafficked, as I'm just going to say. A lot of people are abuse escapees, and that doesn't mean that they're going to get trafficked, and that doesn't mean that they're in a bad situation either. A lot of people, well, no, I'll say most people never talk about the fact that there's so many successful runaways and people who've escaped trapped in the Cash for Kids system and SRA. Although I will say that when you escape higher level situations like that, you commonly do spend your whole life running from your abusers because they're usually rich and can find you easily. But people never talk about that because the reality is any person that you hear about probably isn't really missing. You're never going to hear about somebody who's being trapped on the news. But even then, if somebody really wanted to find one of those quote-unquote missing people, they still could very easily. In fact, something that's talked about a lot in youth rights groups is missing white woman syndrome. So pretty much, you're more likely to actually be looked for if you're a white girl, which honestly benefits a lot of people. But anywho, it's still very interesting how, like, even more cameras and security is everywhere, but nobody can find anybody, quote unquote. Another thing, I remember back on the West Coast, there was this one security guard, or I guess I could say security camera dude. I'm not really sure what organization he worked for, but I do know that he was very power trippy. The power had definitely gotten to his head. I remember I would often hear him talking to homeless people on the cameras. And I remember this one time where this one dude was trying to like sit somewhere when it was raining really bad, and the dude got on the camera and he was like, "Move before I call the police on you. I see your every move. I'm over all the cameras in this town. I see everywhere you go at every time of the day, and I see everything you do, and you can't hide from me." And it's like, he was really having a power trip. Always. Literally. Like, I remember one time I was going to a class, and he got on the camera really quietly, and he was like, "Screw you," or something like that. Can't really remember, but it was something like that. So, yeah. He's the main one I remember. He wasn't even the only one that worked the cameras, but he's the main one I remember. And most people don't actually see how this is going to eventually affect everybody. And for my list, Abbott Spy Inc., Allied Universal, they're everywhere. Intelligence Surveillance, Garda World, IPS, International Protection Services, Fortified Security, Pacific Security. Ooh, I can't really see this. Ecoline Protective Services. And I'm sure there's more, but this is the list I have right now. For a long time, I only had Abbott and Allied because they're literally everywhere. And it's just really, really interesting. Because it's like, I don't remember seeing any of these things before 2023. But it's like, you can't go to any state, you can't go to a grocery store, you can't go to CVS, you can't go to a library, you can't go to Walmart. You can't go anywhere without them being there. I forgot to mention, Abbott claims to be a private investigator company as well. And I think Allied does too. The Usual Mason Company.